How have you been able to finance your business? Is your business affected by the inflationary trend? Are you thinking of expanding your business outfits? Are you in need of information on the economy, stocks, financial and money markets, dividends, and the likes? For answers to these posers, join our program, Business and Financial Matters, every Monday between 2:30 and 3 p.m. on Osbc television. Business and financial issues, news at your doorsteps.
The federal government had proposed to remove the controversial petrol subsidy before the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure on the 29th of next month. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, who gave the indication, attributed the delay in the removal of fuel subsidy as provided for in the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 to the 2023 general election and the National Population Census, which was postponed to next month. Petrol subsidy removal is a difficult economic and political decision for government to take. The federal government felt Nigerians now agreed that fuel subsidy is not serving the people it is supposed to serve, and its high cost is adding to nation's deficit. The cost of subsidy per litre of petrol, as disclosed by the finance minister, ranged between 350 naira to 400 naira, saying Nigeria spends about 250 billion naira monthly on petrol subsidy. The outgoing government in the country has recommended that the incoming administration of President-elect Bola Tinubu should approve pay rise to public sector workers after the removal of premium motor spirit subsidy in June this year. President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, which winds down in May, had planned to remove the costly fuel subsidy in 2022 as part of fiscal and petroleum sector reforms, but the plan was set aside because of fear of protest in the run-up to the last presidential election. The government also examined the pains that removal of premium motor spirit subsidy will bring on the poor and vulnerable masses. Previous Nigerian governments have promised to remove the fuel subsidy, which most economists say is an unsustainable drag on public finances, but have failed to do so because of years' opposition from citizens, especially as experienced in the past. Many Nigerians consider cheap subsidized fuel as at least one benefit they receive from the government, which fails to deliver other basic services satisfactorily, such as adequate pipe-borne water, better health services, and security, despite receiving billions of dollars every year from oil exports. The finance minister, who affirmed that the provision for petrol subsidy removal had already been made in the 2023-2025 medium-term plan, described fuel subsidy as a double jeopardy for the Nigerian economy, which must be removed.
We made that provision to enable us exit fuel subsidy by June 2023. We're on course. We're having different stakeholder engagements. We've secured some funding from the World Bank. That is the first tranche of palliatives that will be that will enable us give cash transfers to the most vulnerable in our society.
The federal government pointed out that the country had been borrowing to fund petrol subsidy, adding that this has become unsustainable amid the present fiscal challenges. It expresses optimism that such amounts could be invested in building more schools, hospitals, improving infrastructure, and other critical sectors that would have feasible positive impacts on Nigerians. During his presidential election campaign, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu had promised to ramp up oil production and deregulate midstream gas prices within 6 months he assumes office. He said in his manifesto that he would channel the money saved on the petrol subsidy into agriculture, social welfare, road construction, public transport subsidies, education, and health care. However, the federal government says it has not concluded plans on palliatives that would cushion the effects of free subsidy removal on Nigerians, but the Labour Minister Chris Ngige said government has already concluded on the issue of pay rise by 5% and 10% for workers in different categories. Justifying the need for free subsidy removal, the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Clement Agba, hinted that under the federal government's 2022 to 2023 medium-term expenditure framework, a proposal of 3.3 trillion naira was only made for free subsidy Between January and June this year, he stated that a committee headed by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo had been working with the National Economic Council, comprising 36 state governors and the Federal Capital Territory, working on the palliatives that will help to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. Recall that the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have given conditional support for the removal of fuel subsidy. The Labour Union resolved that they would only allow the removal of fuel subsidy if the administration of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu takes steps towards the repair and revitalization of government refineries across the nation and allow modular refineries. They submitted that failure to do the aforementioned will force Nigerian workers to protest against the decision. Meanwhile, marketers have stated that the cost of petrol would amount to 800 naira per litre once subsidy on PMS is removed. Industry operators had repeatedly warned that the high cost of subsidy on petrol is a burden on the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and is contributory to the prolonged fuel scarcity crisis in the downstream oil sector. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and National Gas Workers, NOPEG, and the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMA, have kicked against subsidy removal until the government provides required factors for subsidy removal. But the sister union, Petroleum and National Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASAN, called on federal government to stop subsidizing petrol as well as ensure the speedy rehabilitation of Nigerians' refineries. The national president, NOPEG, William Aporia, said the union position commensurate with that of NLC, while IPMA, who spoke through its public relations officer, Chief Nkadike Chinedu, hinted that the union requested government to put some factors in place before adopting a no-subsidy regime. These include making the obsolete refineries working, repair of pipeline to checkmate the importation of petroleum products, and guide against exorbitant prices, especially when the private refineries comes on stream. The latest move for subsidy removal continues to generate reactions from Nigerians. A policy analyst, Mr. Peter Umupere, frowned at subsidy removal without government putting in place palliative measures that will bring relief on the populace.
I think the proposed removal of oil subsidy will not be for the interests of the people of this country. The reason is simple that the government, there's nothing on ground for the people to fall back to. It would have been good for government, before thinking of removing oil subsidy, to make sure that our refineries are working, to make sure that the masses of this country will have something to fall back to. But very unfortunately, they want to remove this subsidy. Now, what is the guarantee that when this subsidy is removed, the resources, the money accruing from the removal will be used judiciously? The only benefit that Nigerians are benefiting from our oil, our God-given resources, is that subsidy, is that money that helps us to go to the fuel station and buy fuel at a subsidized rate. The moment that money, that amount of that subsidy is removed, Nigerians will suffer. The average Nigerian will suffer. Everything, what we have will be a spiral effect on every product in the market. And at the end of the day, we have so many jobless people. An average family now will find it hard to suffer. Even now, people cannot afford 3 square meters. So when you remove that subsidy, which is the benefit, as far as I'm concerned, that Nigerians are getting right now from what God has given to them, if you remove it, then they will not look like a people without oil, and they will suffer for it, and it will not all go well for this country. So I think Nigerians should not be made to suffer for the past misdeeds of our leaders. So in my own candid opinion, I believe that if the government should contemplate removing subsidy at all, the government must ensure that certain things are on ground that the masses can follow. I'm not talking about they talked a lot about they are going to create certain things that will cushion the effect. No, that's not what I'm saying. Everything should be working. The refineries should be working to their full capacity. The energy sector should be working, so that small industries that will create employment opportunities for people will come up. When these things are not there and you are taking off this, you are removing the subsidy, you are confining Nigeria to more poverty, and it will not all go well for this country. So I am completely against the removal, especially at this time. It has never succeeded in any country before. Except they want to tell us that whatever lapses we have suffered in this country based on the past misdeeds of our leaders, that Nigerians should bear it. No, it is not wise. So I don't think it's the right time for oil subsidy to be removed.
Similarly, the chairman, House Committee on Petroleum Downstream, Honorable Musa Sakin Ada, opined that Nigerians cannot survive without the premium motor spirit, asking government to be patriotic enough by removing the petrol subsidy as a parting gift for Nigerians.
The Buhari administration came on because of seeing how Nigeria rejected it at that very time. The APC then campaigned that there will be no fuel subsidy removal immediately. Things come and go, and things happens gradual. The issue of oil subsidy is not a Nigerian factor. I have said it, and many experts have said it equally. It is a global factor. The fact that Nigeria have oil deposits which we will explore and export to sell the crude, unfortunately, we do not have the means to refine it for our local consumption. The fuel subsidy rely heavily on the petroleum finished products. If we are refining in this country, there won't be issue of fuel subsidy because there would be nothing to subsidize. It will be sold based on what is refined, to remove their cost of production plus minus and make some little margin and move on with your business life. But in this circumstance, this is something that is essential to our lives. We can't survive without it because of the energy demand. Energy in various means and in various sectors. We have to import it. It is an unfortunate situation. And it is not the Buhari administration or the incoming Tinubu administration that is coming, that's the cause of it. It's the cause of the past administrations. Here we are with 4 gigantic refineries built in the military era of 1970s and early 80s. And until today, they are the only ones existing. As moribund as they are, much money has been budgeted in their turnaround maintenance by successive regimes. You can count on any regime from 1977 till date have allocated much amount of money meant for turning around of those refineries. Unfortunately, the desired result have not been achieved. So whoever come, he has no option other than to look at the means of how Nigeria could get petroleum, kerosene, diesel at affordable and easy to get. Now that the subsidy is still running, you want fuel with your money, you cannot get it. You have to buy a liter for 1,000 naira in some places. I come from an area that I've told you are agrarian people. Gada and Goran people are agrarian. It is not, it is undisputable or indisputable because they are engaged in irrigation of onion, garlic, which are we are the largest producers, and other perishable items. And the only source of water is by digging a hole, a well, or a local borehole, not motorized, whereby you have to pump it with your generating set, and you have to power it with petroleum. Instead, our people are agrarian, they are engaged in perishable items. As such, they use local wells and local boreholes, which they use generating set to power, to irrigate their farms. At this very particular moment, most of them are going for at very exorbitant price. They cannot even get it. They have to travel many kilometers, 30, 40 kilometers to go and buy a liter or two to come back to their farms because there's no availability of fuel within the area. So in this circumstance, you can't imagine whatever price somebody is asked to, because somebody has invested all he had, his energy and his means in the farm, and it is about to harvest, and he has to continue to power it for the next 2-3 weeks. No matter the cost, he has to buy Equally, the same thing happens to the motorists, both the commuters and the transport owners. So in this circumstance, now we have an incredible problem over the period of time for about 4 decades. So if the solution is only to remove the subsidy, this subsidy, the issue has been said, many people have said, many inquiries committees have been set up by the National Assembly and the executive as well, that some people are feeding fat on it. I would love to see when those people that have fed fat on it are brought to book, investigated properly, prosecuted, and jailed if possible. The issue of subsidy is not something that you will just walk off one day. We are not in a military era, we are in a democratic system and a democratic regime, whereby everything will be processed within the rules and within the extant laws. I even expected the current government of President Muhammadu Buhari to be patriotic enough to remove the oil subsidy. That whoever is trying to politicize the issue for fuel subsidy or waiting to ambush President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he comes, he is just wasting his time. Don't waste your time, please. Let's talk of things that will unite this country. Let's talk on issues that will move this country fast. This man came with a vision. He came with consolidated plans that will develop this country, not issues that will divide us. Fuel subsidy is one over many problems that we are having, and he's going to inherit. I have very good confidence in him and people around him. That thing will be solved in a manner that is desired, and the desired result will be achieved. On the issue of parity of prices, these are opinions given by the operators, the NNPC, who bought in oil or fuel and sells to the marketers. And the marketers and other stakeholders are saying the price should be higher than what the NNPC is proposing. NNPC might be proposing this based on they know how much they bought it from there and how it arrives here. Then they are thinking when they give it out to them, plus minus, they gain profit margin, it should not be more than 500 naira. So if those people say no, it has to be about 700 naira, then we have to look at it critically. Are they trying to profit racketeering even before it arrives? The answer should be no. Everybody should be patriotic, and everybody should be honest and sympathize with Nigerians. And the whole issue is not matter of 700 naira. It's the devaluation of naira that we're having. I was in Morocco a couple of weeks ago. They are selling fuel for about $1.50. $1.50 at equivalent rate of Nigerian naira, that is about 1,000 plus. By the time the new government come in, like I've said, I wish the sitting government will remove the old subsidy before it goes. That will be the parting gift it could do to Nigerians and to the incoming government. Okay. And as I said, when they come, it's a tripartite issue. The government will sit down, I believe, with Nigerian stakeholders in the market, the NNPC, everybody, and say, what is the way forward? What is the solution? They will bring recommendations. All these recommendations that are being proposed now will be tabled to them, and they'll look at it critically. They are people of integrity, and they are people who have the concern of the masses at their heart. And I'm sure they have also experts within their fold.
Speaking in the same vein, a oil expert, Bala Saka, said it is not ideal to embrace the regulation of fuel in an emerging economy, while expressing Nigerians' expectation from the government on the proposed petrol subsidy removal.
Is a globally accepted, recognized, tested economic pain cushioning concept. So subsidy is not a Nigerian concept. It is a globally accepted concept that is used to cushion the pains of citizens. And to that extent, if subsidy is not working in Nigeria, that will never still invalidate the global relevance and value of subsidy. Let me first then define leaders before I give you practical examples of how subsidy work. Leaders are citizens like other citizens, but a collection of citizens elected those other citizens to manage their economy, political and social destinies in national interest. And to that extent, if those leaders are not managing those destinies very well, they can be challenged by leaders. This is how subsidy works. The reason why today we have health centers, we have teaching hospitals, we have public hospitals, is because government needs to provide subsidy in health. So if the chief medical directors, the nurses and the doctors are stealing the drugs or diverting maybe the scanning machines, will you say you will remove or throw away everything about health subsidy just because some of the personnel are not doing well? That is the thing. So in the context of oil and gas, the fact that subsidy is being mismanaged, or we have economic marauders, we have economic vampires, and we have economic traitors along that line that is supposed to make us to be sufficient in distillates, that should not make you to say you will throw away the concept. And this is something that a lot of people are not conscious of. As I speak to you right now, quote me that I said, as I speak to you, a 50-kilogram bag of rice is beyond the minimum monthly wage of a Nigerian. The minimum monthly wage in Nigeria today is 30,000 Nigerian naira. And 30,000 Nigerian naira cannot buy one bag that is a 50-kilogram bag of rice. Any country where minimum wage cannot buy a 50-kilogram bag of rice or a 50-liter jerry can of diesel, that country is economically in trouble.
Gbolahan Olojede stated that the only option left for the nation is to confront the subsidy challenge and put necessary machineries in place to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal.
The first subsidy will be something that the new government cannot deal with. It's a very tough one. I mean, we've been on fuel subsidy matters from the military to Obasanjo to Yaradua to GJ to Buhari, and nobody has been able to handle this one. But the matter has now dragged us to the point where we have no option. You can see the amount we're spending on subsidy. The provision is about 3.6 trillion just for half year. So if we're taking the full year next year, we are looking at maybe like 6 point something trillion in payment on subsidy. So we even have no option to confront the issue of fuel subsidy. However, I think that what we need to be able to do is to look at the pinch, which is removing the fuel subsidy, and the balm and cushion that we can put in place to help the public and the citizens to be able to carry the burden of removal of fuel subsidy. We also need to be able to talk about fuel subsidy. How do you remove it? Is it going to be once is it going to be a bullet removal? Is it going to be done in phases? However you want to do it, you need to be able to articulate that and communicate it to the people and build trust for the necessary support to remove fuel subsidy. Without the trust and the support, it will be a very tough thing to do.
Nigeria currently runs two forms of subsidy. The first is the payment of the difference between the actual pump price of petrol, which is arrived at after calculating the landing cost and the extant margins. The other is the cost of transportation paid on every liter to ensure that the price of petrol is similar across the country. The removal of subsidy, if not properly managed, could have a harmful effect on the entire nation. An increase in the cost of petroleum motor spirit is set to bring about inflation and ultimately spiral into every sector of the economy. Transportation costs will increase. Consequently, the cost of goods and services might skyrocket too. Developing the nation's gas reserves and building infrastructure for their utilization is an important step to drive economic prosperity and cushioning the verse of petrol subsidy removal, government also needs to deploy proceeds from the new economic policy in view to developmental projects which will make life more comfortable to the people, while assurance should be given to the populace through public enlightenment and inclusiveness on why the fuel subsidy removal is a non-negotiable decision. Therefore, it is expected that government will put in place palliative measures that will make life more comfortable to the people, as well as mitigating the economic challenges that might emerge during the implementation of the economic policy.
Hello out there. What business are you into? How have you been able to finance your business? Is your business affected by the inflationary trend? Are you thinking of expanding your business outfits? Are you in need of information on the economy, stocks, financial and money markets, dividends and the likes? For answers to these posers, join our program, Business and Financial Matters, every Monday between 2:30 and 3 p.m. on Osbc television. Business and financial issues, news at your doorsteps.
afternoon and welcome to the State News. I'm Olubumi Ajiboye Agbola. The Supreme Court has scheduled judgment for tomorrow afternoon in the appeal filed by former Osun State Governor Mr. Agboyega Oyetola against the election of Senator Ademola Adeleke. Mr. Oyetola is by his appeal seeking the reversal of the March 25 judgment of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, which affirmed Senator Adeleke's victory in the last governorship election in Osun State. The appeal court had in its judgment set aside an earlier judgment by the Osun governorship election petition tribunal, which held in favor of Mr. Oyetola and Senator Adeleke. Of the Supreme Court announced the time and date for judgment after taking arguments from lawyers to parties today.